For clarity's sake, that's not actually the sound they use, but, I mean, it works. No, but in all seriousness, FictionSphere's demo, that's still gonna take some time to get used to, is not Mega Man X. There's some similarities, but for the most part, the resemblance is surface level. What it is a mix of a few things. It's a platforming brawler, or beat 'em up if you prefer, with a shooting gallery component, and what I would call fighting game air combos. Which is way too many syllables for a name, so I understand if you want to use their technical platformer term. But I don't. And there's a reason for that. The platforming put on display here is the least interesting, and I would say least well executed part of the game. When it comes to your normal jump, there's not much to point to as a problem. The air control is good, and it doesn't feel floaty. The animation is a little stiff, but not something I'd really complain about. It's for the most part fine. Just oh so slightly too short. And I mean, you can't even jump over a box without wall jumping off of the last pixel, which messes with the flow of movement in such an annoying way. It seems so unnecessary. And then speaking of wall jumps, they themselves are another issue. First of all, the tried and true wall scrape that, not so subtly anymore, informs the player that they can wall jump is absent in all its forms. There's no smoke trail effect, you're not slowed down, you're given no feedback telling you that jumping against a wall is in any way different than just jumping straight up in the air. And as I sort of said, some of the normal looking jumps require you to do a little hop off of the wall, so not giving people an easily recognizable way to know they can do that could cause some confusion, is the word I would use to describe that. And then past the potential confusion, some lesser problems I had are, 1, without the slow wall scrape, going from a straight fall into a sudden wall jump feels a little jarring, and 2, I wish that the wall jump had more vertical movement to it. But these are more nitpicks than anything. I just want to make it clear that there's a lot of improvements that could be made here, and at this point, if the platforming was the main selling point, I would find it difficult to recommend this, but luckily, I wouldn't say that's the case. The thing that caught my attention was the combat system. The simplest way I can think to describe the combat is as a fighting game that got lost in an action platformer. But unfortunately, that sentence only makes sense to me, so I'll go a little more in depth. In combat, you have 3 types of attacks. Basic melee attacks that string together.
Buster actions.
I mean, if you're just gonna say it. And yes, the Buster action is exactly what you think it is. It's an arm-mounted gun that can be charged for bigger shots. And then finally, and most interestingly, abilities, which are heavy damage-dealing attacks that auto-combo together. And when you use all of these in tandem, you can perform fighting game air combos. Meter management and all, because abilities cost meter. And most importantly, it's super fun! In terms of functionality, you can change what abilities you have and what order they come up in the auto combo, and with that, I think there's a lot of potential for people to come up with some creative combos. But even if you don't, what comes naturally is honestly good enough. The only bad thing about these combo shenanigans is when they're absent, the combat is a real drag. Which I know because there's an enemy that you can't do them to. He doesn't get hit stun, you can't launch him into the air, and boy, does he suck. I mean, I'm open to the idea of big enemies that can't be manhandled as easily, but this sentient wall of annoyance, I tend to just skip past and get back to what's important. Mad stunting on robots. Stupid machines. Now, the last bit of gameplay I want to get into is the shooting gallery mode, and what I have to say about it isn't much. My opinion's pretty middling. The idea of having enemies in the background that you have to deal with by changing what mode your Buster's in, while also having normal enemies pop up and forcing the player to juggle both of them at the same time, does add some interesting complexity. And if taken in the fast action-focused direction that being able to attack enemies normally while in Buster Gallery mode, and the quick transition between Buster modes lends itself really well to, then great! I'd love to see it explored, but right now, you can't move while firing, and that really slows things down. I wouldn't say it's a deal-breaker, but I don't like it. Or the Buster Gallery mini-boss. Or the actual boss, for that matter. Which is probably the reason I didn't bring him up until this is over. Which it is, and overall I give FictionSphere's demo a C+. It's slightly above average. The idea behind the combat is really exciting to me, which is the main reason I gave the premise an A, and if I'm being completely honest, that B comes mostly from just how much I love absolutely demolishing these androids. Everything else is more or less average, though. I do feel the need to say that polish is getting brought down a teensy bit because there's a bug where the screen won't transition, and I had to navigate a small section blind. But other than that, things are tightened down pretty well, and I'm really excited to see where this project goes. And if you feel the same way and want to help out, you can head over to the Kickstarter campaign that's going on right now and throw money at their problems. Links in the description as always, and have a great rest of your day. Or night. I don't know when people watch these.